My family faithfully watched the Rose Parade on television every year on New Year's Day, but had only attended the parade twice. Once, we went to cheer a relative's relative who was the reigning Rose Queen that year, and again when President Gerald Ford, who had just been defeated by peanut farmer Jimmy Carter, was Grand Marshal of the Rose Parade on January 1st, 1978. My siblings and I were taught to be polite and respectful and to address all adults as Mr. or Mrs. But surprisingly, my parents had some church friends who were strangely hip to the times. "Just call me Pat," Mrs. Freeman once said to us kids as she strummed the guitar, taught us how to sing Kumbaya, and stunned me with her unapologetic, hippie-like informality. I had never heard an adult say anything like that before. In my mind, the chasm between adults and children was so wide and permanent that her invitation for us kids to address her by her first name seemed like a dangerous modern-day blasphemy. So I tried it. "Thank you, Pat," I said as she passed out cookies. Unfortunately, Mum overheard me. "Her name is Mrs. Freeman," she said pointedly. "But she told me to call her Pat," I argued. "Mrs. Freeman," Mum repeated. The adult-child chasm widened once again, and I never dared call an adult by their first name until the 1978 Rose Parade. I don't know what got into me. I don't know what made me think the coast was clear and I could speak as freely and disrespectfully as I wanted, not just to an adult, but to Gerald R. Ford, who less than a year before had been President of the United States of America. Maybe it was the cheering crowds lining Colorado Boulevard and the general atmosphere of fun and celebration that lessened my inhibition. As the convertible car carrying President Ford, who was waving to the crowd, slowly passed, I suddenly screamed at the top of my lungs, "Hi, Jerry!" What a wicked thrill to let loose with such a silly, spontaneous impulse. I felt bold, subversive, rebellious, and wild. I laughed, amused at my own burst of public brattiness. Suddenly, I felt a twinge of regret. This was, after all, a President of the United States. I'm sure he had heard worse in his political career. In fact, Saturday Night Live comedian Chevy Chase found fame by poking fun at President Ford, who had the singular misfortune of tripping when he stepped off Air Force One. But the Gerald Ford sitting in that car looked like a dad, just like my dad. And I doubt he appreciated being addressed with disrespectful familiarity by a snarky teenager. And if he was anything like my dad, I was probably going to get a severe presidential stare-down right in the middle of the Rose Parade. I felt embarrassed and hoped President Ford didn't hear me. But he did. After I yelled his name, President Gerald Ford turned his head, fixed his eyes on me, and smiled. His amused, indulgent smile relieved and thrilled me. At that moment, I didn't care if Gerald Ford was a Republican or Democrat, a good or a bad president. He was, in my mind, a really nice man. I'm glad my parents didn't hear me yell, "Hi, Jerry," at the Rose Parade. They wouldn't have been so nice.